Hi, if you'd like to know what the most profitable food business ideas for 2021, stay tuned and I'm going to tell you which businesses they are and why. If you'd like to own your own food business, make sure you subscribe. Every week we create new videos that are value packed on all the tips and tricks that you can learn so that you don't make the mistakes that all newbies make when opening their own food-based business. Hi, I'm Rowena. I am a food consultant based in Sydney, Australia. I'm the founder of Food Marketing. We help people turn their dreams of running their own food business into a reality. So make sure you tune in to all our episodes or have a look at food-marketing.com.au for more resources and support for when you open your food business. Thanks to COVID-19, the world is a very different place. So if you're thinking about opening a food business post-pandemic, you really need to focus on the businesses that have the best margin. Now, to understand margin, we're talking profitability. What is your percentage of profit as a percentage of your turnover? And you will be absolutely shocked to know that most food businesses operate on really slim margins. Most businesses operate on a less than 10% profit. Now, that is a lot of hard work for a small amount of money unless your turnover is exceedingly high. To really understand margin, you need to understand the three main cost centres of a food-based business. Now, they're going to be your cost of goods sold, your rent, and your wage cost. Now, it makes sense. If you can keep these cost centres down low, your margin or your profitability is going to increase. So let's start with cost of goods sold. Now, cost of goods sold is really about how much is the product you make, so all of your F&B items on your menu, how much does it really cost by the time you go to sell it to your customer? Now, you'll be shocked to know that a lot of cost of goods sold percentages are up around 40% for a lot of food-based businesses. Now, there's no room for margin. By the time you have your wage cost and your rent, you're going to be operating on the slimmest of margins and it's not sustainable in the long term. So what are some of the best businesses in terms of ones with lower cost of goods sold? Here's a general rule of thumb. If you are making a product, a menu item that has a small amount of protein rather than a large percentage of protein, then your cost of goods sold is going to be lower. So a great example of that is pizza or pasta. In general, these are products that have their main ingredients are flour, water, bit of salt, and then of course with the toppings and sauces. But the majority of that menu item is actually a carbohydrate. Now, high carbohydrate menu items tend to have really low cost of goods sold. Why? Because the ingredient costs are low to purchase. So let's think about this. Pizza places, pasta places. Now, I know it's a protein, but a lot of dairy concepts are low cost of goods sold as well. So ice cream businesses are a great example. So there's a few rule of thumbs of businesses that have low cost of goods sold. That's a great place to start. Now, food businesses with high cost of goods sold are often protein-driven menus, but they are also often the higher priced locations. So you might have things like a steak restaurant or fine dining. They have very high cost of goods sold. Their customers are coming to them for a premium product. So their ingredient cost is very high, but their average transaction value is too, because their customers are spending more money to dine there. However, at the end of the day, if you can modify your cost of goods sold and keep it down low, then you're not so reliant on being in a really high traffic location with high turnover. So other great examples are some of the Asian food concepts like noodle bars. They have a very high carbohydrate content in a lot of their dishes that are rice-based and noodle-based, and guess what? It's low cost of goods sold. So before we continue, what are your thoughts on some other types of concepts that have low cost of goods sold? Pop your comments in the list down below, and let's have a look at what you recommend. Okay, now let's look at another cost centre. Believe it or not, a lot of food businesses spend up to 40% and even more on wages simply to run their businesses. Now, if you've got high cost of goods sold, you have high wages, we haven't even factored in rent, there's not going to be a lot left over for profit. So So let's look at some businesses that have much lower wage rates in terms of really driving profitability. Now, a great example is a lot of fast food concepts that use technology in place of wages. Now, a great example of that are burger chains, chicken chains, even pizza places where you pay and order at the counter, often using kiosk style or iPad technology. It negates the need for front of house sales staff processing orders. So your wage cost really centres on your kitchen staff. Of course, you're going to also have staff available to troubleshoot and help. Not if you're doing it online. I might add, use the technology again, reducing the number of staff members. So that's a great way, and some examples there of really businesses that have been able to really lower their wage costs and really drive profitability. A lot of people will say, well, investing in technology like that is going to initially be a really high setup cost. You're absolutely right. But if I told you that for several $1,000s investment in iPad or kiosk ordering technology, you could be saving tens of thousands of dollars per annum on wages, would it not look suddenly like an appealing investment? Okay, finally, let's turn our attention to rent. Now, if you can minimize your expenditure on rent, then it goes to say that you are going to have a higher level of profitability. Now, the problem is in this post-COVID world, you really want to minimize your expenditures as much as possible. We don't know going forward about further restrictions being put in place. If you are looking at signing leases, now is the time to really negotiate, whether you're in an existing location or you're looking at new locations. But the rule is always this: there is no point having really cheap rent if it's not in a location that is accessible and convenient to your customer base. I have a client who has a very successful cafe. He only pays 2% of his turnover on rent. A lot of people pay up to 30%. I've even seen up to 40% of their turnover on rent. These people will eventually go out of business. It is absolutely unsustainable. If you are paying anywhere above 15% of your turnover on rent, you are going to get into financial difficulty. So needless to say, my client who's only paying 2% is laughing. That additional 13% is going straight into his hip pocket as profit. Okay, needless to say, if you can make great savings in the following 3 cost centres, cost of goods, wage and rent, then you have the ability to really increase your profitability. Now imagine if you could make savings in 1, 2 or even 3 of these areas. Now a great example of this is cloud kitchens or ghost kitchens. Imagine if you were only renting a kitchen rather than renting an entire restaurant. Your rental costs are going to be a lot lower. Your wage costs are going to be lower because the model is not dine-in, it's only takeaway, and it's usually powered only by online sales. So then your wage cost is also going to be lower. Now imagine if you could develop a concept that is a cloud kitchen or a ghost kitchen that has really low cost of goods sold. For example, carbohydrate-rich menu like noodles, pizza, pasta, any of those concepts with low cost of goods sold, then you're going to make savings across all 3 cost centres, and that makes ghost kitchens and cloud kitchens looking like a really interesting concept for profitability moving into 2021. So if you would like our list of strategies to help your business really increase sales in this post-pandemic world, then make sure you click the link below and you can download our recommendations to really drive sales. And we focus on, as always, on low cost and no cost marketing strategies to really help you increase your turnover. Enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe for weekly gems of information to try and help you avoid all the pitfalls when you're running your food business. Let us know how you enjoyed this video, and thanks so much for your time.